Hi, this is Dan Bullard, retired electronics engineer, sitting on the front deck of my houseboat. Oh, it's another exciting day out on the marina. That guy who jumped in to save his dog, he died. They hauled his dead body off, So, you have to decide whether your dog's more important than your own life. You have to decide. Okay, in that last video I talked about the things you can do in frequency domain to mess with a wave, and I did that really cool thing for I trashed Raytheon. Raytheon totally screwed up. It's a Saturday, so people are fishing, so somebody's going to go by, and I think Alan's out. I don't know. I just saw his wife. So, but in Raytheon they did this horrible thing where they it's a sailboat. They did this horrible thing where they didn't know how to do an FFT, so they averaged the shit out of this horrible waveform. I took the exact same waveform, did the FFT, multiplied everything in the spectrum by zero, everything by zero except for bin 9. And there's nothing magical about bin 9. It could be bin 259, whatever. It's best if it's an odd number. It doesn't even have to be an odd number. It could be an even number if you want, but that's not a good idea if you watch my other video. But I multiplied everything, including the DC bin, by zero, and then I did the inverse FFT, and the only thing left was the 10 kilohertz, which was the point of the test. Is a CMR test, common mode rejection ratio. So, but that just brings up a whole bunch of shit you can do. You can do all kinds of stuff to the wave. And this is one of the fun things that I did that absolutely proves Law 1 and Law 2 of the Bullard laws of harmonics. Absolutely proves it. And nobody else knows these things. Nobody. And Tony's constantly arguing with me about it. Oh, well, nobody's adopting your rules. Well, they're my laws. They're not my rules, and, let's remember that Darwin is still not Darwin's laws of evolution are still not accepted. So, I'm not holding my breath, bruh. I'm sure I'm going to be dead before this is, adopted. But I want to show you, I found this. This is a really cool wave that I made, and I made it with Excel, and I was able to actually open it on my Mac, not with Excel, with Numbers, which is some Apple equivalent. It doesn't do an FFT, and it can't do a lot of the things that Excel can do, but I was able to open it so I can look at stuff. So I want to kind of explain how it works. I just clip the top and bottom of a wave off, and then I go back, I do the FFT, and then I go in and multiply the spectrum. I multiply the harmonics by 2, by 4, by 8, by 16, by 0.5, by 0.25, and so on. I do some really interesting things. And those turn out to be 6 dB. 6 dB is, factor 2 in voltage. And so it makes these cool things. And it proves absolutely Law 1 and Law 2. In Law 2, it shows the angle always remains the same. So the distortion began at 66.92491229 degrees, and it ends at 113.0750877 degrees. So no matter what I do, as long as I maintain the harmonic signature, I don't mess with the harmonic signature. I keep the harmonic signature exactly the same. I multiply every harmonic by 2, by 4, by 8, by 16, by 0.5, by 0.25, and so on. Because I don't change the harmonic signature, the angle always remains the same. It's always the same area because I never change the fundamental. I never change the fundamental. And so the area for the wave must remain the same. So the harmonics cause it to be distorted, but the area of the the waveform cannot change. It is not allowed to change. So that's law 1. Law 2 is the angle. Law 1 is the area. So it's the area. It's voltage times time, and that's in nanovolt seconds or microvolt seconds or picovolt seconds or whatever. Okay, let's talk about how I did this. It's really, really cool. Now, this is an Excel thing. If you're not into Excel, I'm sorry, you'll have to get into it. And here's what I want you to do. If you want to get this waveform and this Excel spreadsheet, email me, dan@danbuller.com, or just do a comment on this video, and I will give you, I don't have the ability to put this thing up for people to upload, or download. I got problems with Yahoo, and I don't know what they are. So this thing's called forward, backward, something, and it's a huge, huge Excel file. But don't worry, there's no bugs in it. I didn't put any viruses in there or nothing. So let's take a look at the code. What I do is I create the waveform and I clip it. And when I clip it, you can see the time domain wave, and there's something called FFT frequency, which doesn't matter, doesn't make any difference. I have a place for the complex, the FFT complex, and that comes in later. So that's where I do an FFT. You can see that I do the Fourier transform on time domain, and I put it into FFT complex. That's column F. Now I do the FFT mag, and I convert to dB, and then I give the odd and even harmonics. The odds are blue, the evens are red, you know that. And then here I show the filter, in this case is -16. You can change the filter to any number. If it's positive 16, it does one thing. If it's negative 16, it does something else. And so that's how I make it go up on one side or down the other. So it's like, you'll have to play with it. You'll have to experiment with it. So I take FFT complex and I multiply it by the filter, and that gives me the product, and then I do the inverse FFT on it, and that's column M in this case, and that's real TD. The problem is there's a bug in the Excel FFT, and so it doesn't give you numbers there. It gives you strings, and you can sort of tell they're strings. So you have to do a conversion in Excel from string to number, and then you can do all kind of other stuff. But when you change the filter, that's the multiplier. Times 1, times 2, times 4, times 8, times 16, and so on. And yeah, the swallows are here. Oh, I wanted to show you this video that I did. I live in this houseboat, okay? And we've been all up and down the river. One time we were going up Lake River, and my wife was driving the houseboat, and I got out on the front deck with my camera, and I caught these eagles. And look at this. This is what eagles do. It's really cool. They're just, it's males probably fighting, but it's really neat they do this. It's really cool. So this is kind of stuff we see on the river, and so that's kind of what I'm trying to do. You never know what's going to show up behind me, and you've seen that before. Wood ducks flying over and boats going by. You know, it's way better than living in a neighborhood. It's not for everybody, as Bruce can tell you. Well, he couldn't tell you anymore because he's dead. He jumped in the river to save his dog. But you know, if you're smart enough to not jump in the water to save your dog, living on the water is a great place. It's a great place to live. Beats the hell out of living in a suburban house. I'll tell you that. Okay, so here's a good look at the Excel, and it's a huge file, and I think you could probably figure it out. If you've got any math sense at all, you can probably figure it out. And if you really want to know how to deal with it, email me, dan@danbuller.com. I'll try to talk you through it. I really would like to get this out there. Like I said, Tony's saying, oh, nobody's adopted your stuff yet. Well, it took a long time for them to adopt Mendel. I think it was 60 years. took for them to adopt mental stuff. So he was dead for 6 years before they even found out what he was talking about. And I'm certain that's going to happen to me. I'm not holding my breath. I'm not trying to get rich, but the copyright on my books will last a long time, and my grandkids will be there to cash in if somebody goes out there and says, "Oh, this is Bullard Laws Harmonics number 2." No, I'm not going to let them do that. The Bullard Harmonics solution is not for sale. It's not for publication. If anybody publishes it, I'm going to sue them, and if anybody else publishes that after I'm dead, my grandkids are going to sue the shit out of them. So I want my grandkids to get rich, and that's the way I'm going to do it. So it's not really a big deal. It's easy to figure out. But Bullard Laws Harmonics number 1 and number 2 are absolutely proven in this Excel thing. You can play with it. You can do all kinds of fun things. It's really cool. And yes, it takes a long time in Excel. It takes 1.5 to 2 milliseconds to do an FFT on something that was built 20 years ago. And it takes 45 minutes to an hour and a half to do an FFT on a computer that was built 10 years ago. So Excel is extremely slow. I mean, it's 1,000,000 times slower than what the actual chip can do, the Intel chip or whatever, can do all by itself. But it's Excel. You can plot things, you can do all kinds of stuff, and I mean, honestly, you can set up an experiment, hit the FFT, and go to bed. I mean, get up in the morning and see what it did. And, if that's the way you do it, that's the way you do it. That's the way I did it. I would get up in the middle of the night and check on it, but I wouldn't recommend that. It's not really a good way to do it. But anyway, it's really cool stuff. You can have a good time. And, Excel is kind of fun. I don't have a tester. I don't have a $7 million tester. Applicos could have left me a tester to play with this stuff, but they loaned it to Maxim, and Maxim had it for 6 months and then gave it back. Never gave a dime to Applicos. So that was my doing. I got them hooked up with Maxim, and Maxim basically used it to train one of their guys who had a master's degree and didn't know a goddamn thing about FFTs. So if you don't have a degree, or if you have just a bachelor's degree, or if you got, you dropped out after 3 years, don't worry about it. Bill Gates doesn't have a degree, or didn't have a degree, and Wozniak has a degree, but Steve Jobs never got a degree, and I didn't get a degree, and I still discovered 6 laws of physics, and I'm very, very proud of that. So it's not that hard. You can do it. If you can do some math in Excel, I highly recommend it. So anyway, happy Saturday once again from the river. This damn Bullard. See ya.